Hi, I'm Mike Sayre, and welcome to the Infinite Reimagined podcast. With me today are my co-hosts Nick Davis.
Hi, I'm Nick Davis, they, them pronouns, longtime game master, huge fan of the fantasy genre as a whole.
And Matt Chapmond.
Hi, I'm Matt Chapmond. You like games. I also like.
All right. Well,
movies
so speaking
and
of
other
games, speaking of games, before we jump into our main topic today, what you guys been playing lately?
I've been playing. They just had a summer sale on Steam, so I went and bought just a bunch of stuff for a song. And one of the things I got was RoboCop Rogue City, because RoboCop is a perfect film. That's just the truth. That's the truth of the matter. I will not hear any dissenting. Actually, yes, in the comments, get in the comments, tell me about if you don't like it. I will just have to come in and tell you how you're wrong. But RoboCop Rogue City, I decided to check that out because really I just wanted to feel I wanted to feel Murphy's gun in my hand, so the game is pretty fun. It's all right. It definitely feels like RoboCop, especially from the perspective of Murphy himself. I will say that the creators clearly didn't understand the movie RoboCop, because you get extra points for over policing, which I guess is in theme with what happens in the original movie, but if you understood it, you wouldn't be giving extra points for the over policing. But to its credit, it does sometimes give you extra points if you let perps go and stuff like that. It reminds me of things like the Fight Club video game, which was just a fighting game. It was just a fighting game, no social commentary, nothing about the toxic masculinity, not even anything about terrorism or soap or anything. It's just fighting, and it's just I suppose it works for a certain group of people, but I think the group of people who would want that aren't the audience for that movie. So but yeah, I've still been playing Legend of Mana because last time Mike was like, hey, if you do these combination of things, you can do this other things. And so I went in and I just spammed those things. I just kept swapping out my my things to try to get new ones, and which I've forgotten all of the words there. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I'm sorry I went a long time, but yeah.
You're a bit of an over completionist with homework, it seems. Yeah. So that's cool. Making me look real good. I also participated in the Steam Summer Sale, and I picked up Atomfall, which is a post-apocalyptic role-playing game set in England in the 60s. It's basically Fallout, but with an actual color palette and skill trees that make a difference as to how your character plays. Which is really fun if you're a person like me who decides to role play every game the first time as like a weird strangle murderer. I have been having a great time just sneaking around and just not engaging with the story at all and getting notifications that I've failed quests because people are dead.
Oh, nice.
That's been fun.
I just want to add one more thing. As long as what I've been playing, what I've been watching, I just watched a bunch of campy superhero movies because I have a show on my channel, Maddie Loves Movies, called Camp Film Camp. We watched Batman 1966, Blade Trinity, Flash Gordon, Mystery Men, and Venom Let There Be Carnage. By the time you're watching this, it will already be out to consume, so go check that out. I'll leave the link in the description.
Those are actually all like really fun movies. Even I think the worst movie out of your list is Venom Let There Be Carnage. But everybody in that movie knows what kind of movie it is, so it's fine, right? Like nobody's like off book. Nobody thinks that that's like a serious horror movie. Like a lot of the early ads kind of built you into thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, I will say that the worst movie of that is Blade Trinity. But yeah, I understand.
There's a
what you're saying
2-story vampire elbow drop. Triple H showed up. I can't possibly understand how that could be the worst of those movies. The math just doesn't math, Matt.
The movie had Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel in it. That movie is bisexual hell, and I will take no arguments.
I can.
So, anyways,
understand,
I've been playing. So following up our last recording, I had to go and play Legend of Mana again, and I've been like cranking through the storylines. I've already completed like the Underworld storyline, and I'm really close to the end of the Jumai storyline, and I got really lost and couldn't figure out how to finish the fairy storyline, even though I've done it like a dozen times before, so that's on my back burner in the game. But I was telling you all about those ley lines and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, and like they do cool things, and they move stuff around, and they affect how plants. Apparently, they also unlock an entire series of like a dozen different special pets that you can only get by creating very specific energy convergences at very specific locations, which I found out after I had played far enough in the game to not be able to get almost any of them.
Replay, man.
Yeah, so I'll be back to that little Mario Kart world just to feel like there was a point to buying a Switch 2, which now has Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I'll probably be checking out at some point, again, to feel like it was a good purchase to buy a Switch 2.
Yeah. If you want to be yelled at by a 14-year-old a lot, play Mario Wonder with your family. My family, actually. Not your family, but my family, because that's what I did yesterday. And boy, did I get yelled at a lot by a 14-year-old. Dad, get over here!
I played that one with my my 6-year-old niece and my 13-year-old nephew, and I got yelled at a lot.
Mario games can be like that when you start doing the multiplayer thing.
This is true.
Moving right along, though, speaking of combat and screaming, we're going to be talking about Paizo's new book for Pathfinder Second Edition, BATTLECRY. This is a book that is going to be, if you happen to be a subscriber, you might already have it in your hands. Its official release date is the first day of Gen Con in about a week here. Some of us here are subscribers, and others of us have our own connections, so we've had a chance to look it over, and we're going to give a little talk about it. As a note, my name is on the cover of this book. This was one of the last books that was created by the Rules and Lore team while I was leading them as the director of Rules and Lore over there. And so this is a book that I actually started planning probably like 3 years ago. Well, another big book that released last October was War of Immortals, right? And I was the lead on that book, and I wrote like really close to 70% of that book. It was like a ridiculous project and undertaking and everything. But that was part of a major plan when I went into and took over running that department was, hey, we're going to try and have like a really fluid storyline. We're going to try and create this narrative with our rules that can also support the adventure side of the house and give them like really cool stuff to work with. And so we did War of Immortals as, you know, the god of war is killed and it's unleashed war everywhere. There was some kind of fun commentary about that at the time, like, oh, well, they wouldn't kill the god of war because like then war would go away. And my one of my good friends and former coworkers, James Case, always did a really good job of being like, so say you have a spigot on the outside of your house for a hose, and instead of closing it, you smack it off with a hammer and smash it to pieces. Do you have more water or less water?
That's actually a very, very good point.
It's a good analogy, yeah.
And so BATTLECRY is now the follow-up to War of Immortals. In War of Immortals, we had the gods going at it and getting dirty, and then BATTLECRY is this book that's about the mortals and how that war has kind of spilled over into the world of Golarion and is affecting everything there. It's a really cool book. Jason Keeley was the lead on this one. I did a lot of work on it, but he was the design lead. He came up with some of the really cool ideas, like the entire book, the chapters are framed with like war journal entries from like journalists and like reporters and people on the ground who are like observing different conflicts and talking about them, which was, you know, such a really cool idea. And my biggest contribution to this book, there were a lot of different things I worked on, but the really big thing I did was I wrote the Commander class. It's one of 2 new classes in here, the Commander and the Guardian. The Commander is, kind of like the class says, right? It's a very kind of military themed, on the map class who increases the party's action economy by kind of giving them orders, like telling everybody, okay, march in formation, and then everybody gets to move as a free action or reaction, and it makes it for this very kind of smooth, clean. You really want a commander in your group if you want to really take advantage of the field and just feel like being very tactical and winning because of how smart and mobile and coordinated you are as a group.
I was going to say, because a lot of Pathfinder's combat mechanics, you aren't effective at, just setting up a choke point and just wailing on somebody there. It is all about moving around the battlefield, capitalizing on conditions, and, getting everyone in the right position to be able to have their moment. So a character that allows everyone else to step up and do their best work. That's kind of a neat addition to most parties.
I feel a little bit of a kinship to this class because when back in Pathfinder's First Edition, the very, very first thing I ever wrote, and I didn't write it for anybody except for myself. One day I was like, hey, I want to write a class because I had a good idea for a class. And back then they were hybrid classes. So it was a hybrid class of a bard and a fighter. And I called it a commander. And the idea was that people would do better by doing what you told them to do. Like they would get buffs and stuff like that if they did the things that you told them to do. And I really loved it. And it was the first thing I ever wrote. And I sent it to a mutual friend of ours, Steve Helt, and he just took his quill pen through it, just red ink all over the place. One note he put was just no. I don't even remember what that was for, but I remember that note. Since I've had more experience writing, I understand some of the notes, but that didn't stop me from loving that class. One thing I notice as I'm reading through your commander classes, and back then it's Pathfinder First Edition, so it was much smaller. The classes are much bigger in terms of what you can do and how you can play them. But it's almost like a lot of the things are very, very similar to what I had written, which I loved. I know there are other classes in other games and past games that are the commander or like the commander. I wasn't experienced enough to know that at the time. So for me, this was a brand new idea. So what I love is that is how closely it resembles what I had actually written, just in a much bigger scale. So like I said, I do feel a kinship to this class, and that's why I really love it. Interesting thing is, I did write for War of Immortals. I was not asked back for BattleCry, which is both sad and interesting, considering Mike may have stolen my class for this. I'm kidding, but.
I can like pretty firmly set that accusation aside by noting that I've been doing this kind of like warfare leader style of class, a bunch of different takes on it for probably like a decade now. I think almost 10 years ago, I wrote the Battle Lord class for Amora Games in Pathfinder First Edition. And that class, like the whole concept was, if you played Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, there was, or maybe even third edition, no, I think it was 3.5. There was a miniatures handbook that was released, and it had a class in it called the Marshal. And the Marshal had all these cool auras, and there was this very clear design intent behind it of like, this is a class for the people who aren't playing Theater of the Mind. They're playing it on the map with minis. And so the abilities are about moving those minis around on the map to make it cool. Now, that was thematically a very cool class and mechanically a deeply lacking class. It only had like a handful of things it could do. It had dead levels. It had like just all of the things that modern games try really hard to avoid. So the Battlelord that I wrote for Amora Games back then, it was like, what if the Marshal, but good? And, you know, again, games have grown a lot. You know, the Marshal's like a 20, 30-year-old class at this point. I'm not trying to knock it too hard. At the time, like, the fact that it existed at all was baller, right?
I love the concept of the Marshal from 3.5 or third edition, and the Battlelord got rolled in 4E into what they called the Warlord, which was an even worse execution of all things. It was terrific.
The Warlord was spicy. Like, the Warlord did a lot of things that if you had been playing Dungeons and Dragons for a long time were like, controversial. It can heal without doing magic, you know? And, like, I don't mean to say that too sarcastically. That came out, like, almost mean. But there is, like, and even more so at the time, there was this, like, oh, that's for MMOs. Yeah. That's not for tabletop games. Where's the verisimilitude? And so the Warlord was really kind of not entirely groundbreaking because other stuff had come before it, right? Like 3.5 also had the Crusader class in Book of Nine Swords, which was very much a martial leader kind of class that had healing and stuff like that. It was a little bit divine, right? It had that kind of like escape clause of it's mostly a martial class. It's mostly about sword techniques, but there's a sprinkling of godly flavor on here to help you swallow the healing comfortably.
The Warlord had a lot of the similar flavor to it. It was your actual words were your power. So you had I think it was like Word of Inspiration, which was your healing word. You had Knight's Gambit, so you could command one of your allies to move and attack as their reaction, using your bonus action. You had Knight's Move. You could just get two allies into flanking positions on an enemy. Like there were some things about it that were really, really, really good. And it just kind of hit level 8 and fell perfectly flat.
Another class that's in this lineage and was actually a big inspiration point for the PF2 commander was also the Pathfinder First Edition Cavalier. That was the Shining Knight class, right? And it had a lot of mounted combat stuff in it, but it literally had a class feature called Tactician. And Tactician was all about sharing teamwork feats with your party. And you got bonus teamwork feats that you could share and like your Tactician aura and stuff like that. And it could get like just positively, deliciously busted as you went on in levels and stuff. There was some cool stuff you could do with feats like I think it was Coordinated Charge, where if everybody was on their animal companions, if they were on mounts and stuff like that, you could really get into some coordinated nonsense of double charging with the party to deal hilarious amounts of, 6 times damage lance attacks and all sorts of stuff like that. And when the Cavalier kind of came to PF2, it came as an archetype, and the focus of the archetype was the mounted combat portion, not really like the inspiring leader portion. There was a separate archetype for Pathfinder Second Edition, which I actually also wrote, and that was the Marshal. And the Marshal was the kind of charismatic leader type. That archetype was built as a graft onto your fighter or whatever, so you could kind of shout orders. You could have different auras that were, kind of depended on, am I more diplomatic? Am I more intimidating? But it was one of the big places in Pathfinder Second Edition that it first started playing with that idea of the benefit of my ability is that I use some amount of my actions to trigger a greater number of actions from the party towards a specific purpose, right? And so when I started designing the commander, that Marshal already existed, and I knew it already existed because I'd written it. And so the commander was something that I wanted to exist in a complementary space, not an overlapping space, right? Because in Pathfinder Second Edition, whenever they make a new class, there's always a class archetype that goes with it, right? So I knew commander class is going to be there. There's going to be an archetype that's going to let people get a taste of that commander class. So I want, in an ideal situation, if a party has a fighter with the martial archetype, a straight up commander, and then like a bard with the commander archetype or something like that, right? I want this to fit in a space where all three of those characters could exist simultaneously in the same party, and they wouldn't be stepping all over each other's toes. They would all have some options to do things and work together well. And so where the marshal is the charismatic leader, the commander is the intelligent tactical leader, right? It gets intelligence as its key ability score. Its class DC, which sets what enemies need to roll to avoid some of its worst abilities, is on legendary proficiency, the best proficiency scaling in Pathfinder Second Edition. It's got a cool banner, and its banner sets an aura that its tactics all function within. At the time I was writing the commander, Shogun was really big. And one of the inspirations I was always thinking about was like Yoshi Toranaga when he's riding and he's got his falcon and his horse and his fan, and he starts doing the signals and waving the fan, and all of the troops are getting like really worked up about it, right? That was an image I wanted in there. So I put in the banner, and the banner doesn't specifically have to be a flag or a pennant. It can be a totem, or it could be Yoshi Toranaga's fan, whatever kind of fits that vibe of what you're going with. And this class very much is the way that I buff you is by buffing the entire party's action economy, right? The marshal has a little bit of action economy buffing and a little bit of numerical buffing. The bard has a lot of numerical buffing. So the commander doesn't do a lot of bonuses. There's a couple of very specific types of bonuses it can do that actually exist more in its feats. It's got setup strikes and these guiding shots where it fires an arrow or it makes a melee attack, and that sets up the next person with some bonuses. But its tactics are really much more about playing with the action economy. I spend this much action economy, you maybe spend some action economy, sometimes not at all. And instead of getting all the bonus damage from a barbarian's rage or, extra high proficiency and super accuracy like a fighter, I'm just putting more actions on the field for us as a group. And as you gain more and more abilities, those actions can do more and cooler things. And everything I tried to do in here is really cinematic. There are some things that are very kind of like baseline. You really need to kind of just have this or people are going to feel like it's missing, right? Like there's a baseline tactic a lot of people will probably pick up when they play and make commanders called Strike Hard. And it's just 2 actions and the commander says, hey, you hit that guy over there, right? Mm-hmm. You can give whoever you're giving this to a free reaction with your drilled reactions ability. So it's kind of a 0 cost for whoever you're directing. And in return, they just get to whack the crap out of something. So if you've been sitting in the back shouting orders and waving your pennant around and the barbarians right up in the boss's face, and you're like, all right, I fired an arrow at him as one action, and now I'm just going to like wave my bow with the pennant behind it around and be like, finish him off, barbarian. That's your Strike Hard. It is a very staple ability, but a lot of my favorite abilities in here are the ones where I had really specific cinematic ideas. Like I can see so many of these just playing out in my head because I was picturing scenes from a movie or scenes from a book or just things I thought would be really cool as I was writing these. Like one of my favorite low-level ones is End It. And End It requires your team to outnumber the enemies on the field. And you have to have dropped somebody within the last round, right? Mm-hmm. But if you meet those conditions and you use End It, everybody in the party gets to step forward and stomp. And anybody who is within 10 feet of one of your party members after you do this tactic has to make a will save or become fleeing and frightened and just like run the heck away from you because that's what it is. It's we whipped your ass and now we're gonna like and watch them run, right?
One of the points that you were making, we were talking about the strike hard move the other day, and you were saying that people would look at that ability. You're using 2 of your 3 actions to tell someone else to hit something. Why wouldn't I just take another attack? The point that you made about it when you were talking to me is that it allows you to take another first attack. The way that the action economy in Pathfinder works, you keep taking penalties for successive attacks. If you use strike hard, you get another first attack. You don't have to take a penalty on it, so you basically get to just attack for free.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to say the action economy on that makes sense to me too, because it's not like a commander on a battlefield is just shouting out randomly at people, hoping people do their thing. They shout a command, and then they make sure that it's seen through. Like that's seeing your command through is part of the thing. So that action economy makes sense to me.
Well, and the other thing is that it allows.
Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say the other thing is that it allows an int-based character to play a smart battlefield commander, basically seizing on the information that you're gathering from the battlefield. So seeing, that guy's weak and the barbarian's up in his business, I'm going to give him a free hit real quick. Hey, go for the knees.
Right. Well, and that's the really big thing, right? I talked about how the commander doesn't give bonuses, but making another first attack is like giving a bigger bonus than any other feat in the game would give you, right? Because you're not taking a -5 like you would for a second hit. So in a way, it is not unlike getting a +5 to an attack, right? Which is most bonuses in the game float around +1. A couple good ones go to +2. A couple really good ones go to +3. And high level S tier type ones go to +4, right? So 5 out of the gate is a big shift in accuracy. The other thing that's nice about it is you choose where to deploy it. You can pick the best possible use of that attack, right? Let alone if you were a fighter and you had a 2-action attack that was just like make an attack and don't take any map penalties to it, or make a 2-action attack and gain +5 to it. It'd be a huge deal, right? It'd be really good. With this, you kind of have even more of that, because those 2 actions can be like, oh, hey, you know what? The druid is wild shaped and is perfectly positioned to take out that enemy wizard. But bam, hit him again with your best shot, literally your best shot, right? Or, hey, look, the barbarian is right up in the boss's face. Hit him again. Not only are you getting an extra full attack, an extra attack with no penalties, none of your multiple attack applied, anything like that, but the barbarian also gets to layer on whatever it's already packing. So if he's raging and he's getting that big bonus damage, now he's getting to not have to take any penalties, getting that extra attack slapped on there, and adding all the stuff that he already brings to the game on top of it. So there's this just really kind of spicy multiplicative power to things like that. As you go on with the commander, there's this slow kind of transition in Pathfinder Second Edition. In like levels 1 through 7, you can kind of think of yourself as like Lord of the Rings fantasy, right? Even the really magical characters aren't explicitly magical, right? Like you think about like Gandalf in The Hobbit, right? And one of the biggest like offensive magics he uses in that story is like some exploding pine cones that are kind of like fireworks, right? He's not even doing like the full fireball type effect right, that you would see in like a modern fantasy sort of game. And so those lower levels, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, kind of right in there as you start unlocking those higher level spells in Pathfinder. Your martial characters also kind of live in that realm of most of the stuff we do feels like something that you could reasonably believe a real life person might do with a lot of skill and training. And then as you go up, you start getting to be kind of increasingly fantastic. So like some of the expert tactics that the commander starts getting, one of my favorites is Buckle Cut Blitz. And it's literally you just indicate 2 of your party members. They get to stride up to their speed as a reaction, and each enemy that they pass adjacent to has to make a reflex save against your class DC, or they become clumsy, which reduces their ranged attack values, their AC, their reflex saves, a bunch of skills. Like, it's a pretty nasty condition rate, because your companions are just like running past, like snipping their shoelaces, cutting the buckles on their belt, their pants, their armor, stuff like that, and making a mess of it. It's a little less believable. You're starting to get into like the fringes of like corny action movie to mid-tier anime nonsense, right? Like, it's Naruto, but it's not late season Naruto. It's like the first 2 seasons of Naruto level of shenanigans.
I like it because even if you don't say that they're cutting their belts or whatever the thing is, it's like in wrestling, the manager comes out, stands there, and then his 2 huge guys come out from behind him and walk down to the ring. That's terrifying to every person in that ring. Like, it's the same thing. Like, those people are going to stumble a little bit when they see the size of these people walking toward them, like, that have now been sent to hurt them. Like, so I like that a lot.
And then as you start getting into higher levels, you start getting into stuff that really does require more party coordination. They're kind of bigger packets of abilities, but when they happen, they're really awesome. There's 2 that are kind of my personal favorites. One of them is Bloody Guillotine. And Bloody Guillotine, you call out up to 3 of your squad mates, and they all get to move half their speed towards an enemy. And as long as they end within reach of that enemy, they can trip or strike that enemy, right? And so you potentially, if the first guy doesn't trip them, then maybe your second ally gets the trip in. What you really want is to get that trip off and then get the melee attack on the prone enemy. Because if they're prone and you hit them successfully while using Bloody Guillotine, they have to make a fortitude save against your class DC or die because you've just executed them. And then all of the other enemies who saw your team do that shit have to succeed at a will save or become sickened by the grotesque execution of their friend that they just saw you and your team pull off, which just feels good, right? That's just
it feels it has the same energy to me as in the 80s movies when someone would when the bully was picking on someone and someone would like kneel down behind the bully and then the guy shoves him back and just tabletops him over, except you decapitate him afterwards. Like, that's a little more extreme, I think.
Food tray.
Like, I think the escalation is a little higher there, but I'm not saying I don't like it.
I think I've seen that episode of Family Guy. That is a combination of all of these factors.
Not for nothing, but my version of the commander did have a ability called Ground and Pound, where if the person you commanded was successfully able to trip them, you did get a free melee attack on them at your full base attack bonus. So I'm not saying you stole anything, but to be clear, I'm kidding. I know there is nothing about what I wrote back then that would have any interest to someone in Mike's position. I will say that I'm enjoying this tea out of this Infinite Reimagined mug, and you can get yours at infinitereimagined.com. Link is in the description.
While you're there, buy a hat. One that I strongly suspect, and this will be the last tactic that I kind of talk about. It's one of the high-level ones. You know, in Power Rangers, how there's always that scene where, like, the Power Rangers, for whatever reason, the Zord budget wasn't there this episode, or the enemy never got big, but did get, like, too strong. And so they all start layering their weapons, like, the axe goes in, and the sword, and then the bow, and all of a sudden they've got, like, this giant laser ballista cannon from all of their weapons that they fire together. So one of the commander's top tier tactics is Insta Ballista, which is literally when you're preparing for the day and you're going over your playbook. You've got your folio out and you've got like all of your playbooks. And you're like, all right, team, today these are the plays that we're going to be practicing for the big game. For this one, I'm going to need all of you to carry a piece of this ballista with you. It'll matter at the time. You'll get it. You'll get it when it comes up. And so Insta Ballista is you've already kind of prepped everybody at the start of the day. You've given them the pieces of the ballista, and you call for it. So they all get to stride into close formation and assemble the ballista together, and then you fire it. And so this is a massive ranged strike attack. And since it's a strike, that means like you can crit and stuff like that. It uses the commander's ranged attack bonus, and commanders are baseline good as any other martial when it comes to attacking, right? They've got the same attack progression as like rangers and barbarians and champions. So they're not slouches. They are more intelligence focused, so they might be a point behind on their strength or dex or whatever, but they're still really good at this stuff. And then their ballista can get up to a +4 bonus on it for each member of the team who participated in this. If you have 4 members of the team who all participated and helped you assemble the ballista, you get +4. And a normal magic weapon only goes up to like a +3 bonus, right? So you're really bringing it in here, and you fire off a 10d12 attack at an enemy. So yeah, you know, if you crit, you're looking at 20d12 equivalent damage.
Damn.
And it doesn't cost, because it's one big strike, it's incredibly action efficient, right? It's 2 actions. The stride that all of your allies have to do to run up and assemble your ballista, it's a free action for them. It doesn't cost them anything. So you can insta ballista, fire off your major shot, and then still have an attack left over to, you know, make one more shot at the enemy you just hit, or to do one of your other cool banner abilities, plant a banner and give everybody temp HP or big bonuses, whatever you want to do. It's spicy. It's probably, you know, people will have their arguments about how good it really is. Like, oh, it's a max level thing. Is 10d12 enough? It's going to be worth it. If you want to do this, it's so spicy, and it's going to feel so good when it goes off and you just smack somebody for a ton. And one of the important things about all of these commander tactics, right, is you're the leader, but your highlight moments should be the team's highlight moments, right? Something like Insta Ballista, you can do hilarious amounts of damage. You know, you could do 80% of a boss's hit points with this one attack if you set it up right, and get going, right? But it will be a thing that the team did together, and then the team will finish up the kill. And so, same thing with Bloody Guillotine, right? Bloody Guillotine is hilarious. If all goes well, you just completely murked an enemy, and all of his buddies are vomiting in the background because you just inflicted sickened on all of them and like made a mess of it. But to do that, you had to have your team get involved. They had to knock them down. They had to come in with the flying elbow and everything like that. And that, to me, is one of the most important parts of class design like this. When you start playing with action economy and stuff like that, when you start having these really powerful abilities, your victories should always be the team's victories. And especially when you're getting a martial class that has so many like just basically finishing moves, right? It would be a lot less cool to just have one guy on the field who just opens up and is like, stand aside, losers, 20d12, and then another 8d12 just for fun, or you know, like it starts feeling bad. It's like some of those older games where certain classes, if you had the one person on the team whose system mastery was higher with everybody else, you start wondering like why you're even there. It's like, I'm basically just a delivery device for Jim. My job is to teleport Jim to the boss and then watch Jim full attack blender away, or, you know, or cool, there's this big climactic boss scene where we kill the giant minotaur and Bob just teleported him to the moon. I guess that fight's over because Bob decided that was how we were going to solve it this way. I didn't want anything in the commander to ever feel that way. I wanted the commander to have big, flashy, potentially fight-ending moves, and I wanted every one of them to be something where it felt like the whole team just won in a really big way.
Right. 2 things. Number one, anybody complaining about, is that enough hit points? That's an example of a person playing the rules and not playing their character, which I talked about during our special preview episode. But number two, and we don't have time to talk about this. I just want to bring up that I've always, since I was, how old was I when Power Rangers started? Like 8, something like that.
You're the same age as me, so it's 8, because the first episode
8.
of Power Rangers in America like literally premiered during my 8th birthday party.
Okay. So then I was technically 7 because you are a week older than me. But I've been wondering since then, or not wondering, but thinking about since then, how the fact that their weapons can do that means that there's some capabilities in Trini's size or Jason's sword that are not being explored. There's clearly some ballistic abilities there that they are not tapping into, but that's not important. We don't have time to dissect that today.
We'll put that for a future episode.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of nanotech must exist in Power Ranger weapons to allow all of these nonsense scenes?
Right.
One of the things that I really like about all of those momentum maneuvers is that it creates it necessarily makes this character a support class, something that very could be a frontliner, could be your party's tank, is actually playing support. You're in the back buffing your allies, making sure that everyone is doing the best they can, rather than burning actions trying to be the main character. And I think that rules. I think,
yeah, and that was kind of my next kind of statement was, I think it's beautiful. I think that I love this class, and I know I've joked a lot about how it's my class or whatever, all that stuff. That's nonsense. I think you wrote a beautiful class that I'm very excited to get to play soon.
Well, thank you. We're getting towards the back end of the thing here. We had a whole other section of the book we want to talk about, so I'm going to ramp us into that real quick, and that is Skirmish Warfare. So when we started talking about the fact years ago now, hey, we're going to do a War of the Gods book. We're going to do then a battles on, Galarian type book afterwards. We're like, okay, well, we want mass combat. And a kind of mantra of mine the entire time I was doing design stuff at Paizo was, if we're going to make subsystems, they need to click into all of the game architecture that is there. My biggest beef with almost every version of mass combat that I have seen in basically any tabletop RPG with any level of crunch to it, right, is that mass combat becomes a completely different game than the one that you showed up to play. You've got this cool character. You spent however long building them, however long playing them, leveling them up. Now the big fight's here. It's a big climactic battlefield scene. So you're just going to go ahead and you're going to lay your character sheet down over there and like, oh, you were a wizard? All right. Well, you're going to get some modifier to ranged magic attack rolls, and you're going to play this completely separate game from the one that was the one that, you had a social contract to come play. And so Skirmish Warfare is written by Logan Bonner. And Logan was the same person that I turned to back when I was leading Guns and Gears, and we introduced siege weapons. There's also a bunch of siege weapons in BattleCry, by the way. Because that was my same thing then, was I was like, okay, I want catapults and ballista and cannons to make sense in the game. I want them to function on the same action economy that everybody already knows. I want them to be things that your characters can directly interact with without needing a bunch of connective tissue that retranslates your character mechanics into some other subsystem. I want them to just be part of the game. And Logan did a fantastic job with those siege weapons back then. He made what I think is one of the best versions of siege weapons in any tabletop RPG I've played. They click right into the game system. They work really well with just the base 3 action, 1 reaction, action economy of Pathfinder Second Edition. And so that was kind of the thing with Skirmish Warfare, is we need to do the same thing here. Your character still needs to matter. You need to still feel like you're playing the same game, but you now need to bring the combat level up so that it feels like you're part of a larger encounter, so that you can have your squad of soldiers who run with you and do everything with you. When we first started discussing this, Eleanor Farron, who's one of the developers on my team, she goes, so like Dynasty Warriors, right? We should just make it like Dynasty Warriors because that is what does this, and that's already a great franchise that everybody recognizes. And so, of course, I'm instantly like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take that inspiration of these Warriors style games, and we are going to channel that into a perfect complement for the Pathfinder Second Edition engine. So Skirmish Warfare, you get like a whole troop, which was a pre-existing mechanic. They fill up a block of squares around you. The squares have been kind of adjusted for a slightly larger scale. This is kind of squad-based combat, right? Instead of commanding 100 people each, you're commanding like 20 people each. So it's really about telling scenes. I talk about like Captain America, the First Avenger, how you have Steve running from solo to I've got a group of guys with me, back to a solo thing. I'm rescuing another squad of guys. That's a lot closer to the kind of story that you might tell with this kind of system. If you get up to 100 people, it's going to be because every member of the group has that squad on them, right? It uses the same action economy system, but it adds 2 actions for commanding and coordinating your troop, right? One of the things that we had kind of talked about as we were planning this system at the time was like, oh, what if we have miniatures? How would we support this with miniatures? And my thing was like, well, you should be able to have a standard block of like archers or goblins or skeletons or whatever kind of troops you want to have in there, where somebody could just take their normal the mini they've been playing the game with this whole time, and just click it right into the middle of the troop and move it all around like that. And that's kind of how these rules work, right? You can attach to your troop, you can move with them, and they move with you. You can still use all of your feats and abilities. If you're a wizard, you can cast your spells and have actions to move or have archers fire. This is the mass combat system that I've been waiting for, I feel like, for 20 years of tabletop RPG playing, right? Because conceptually, I love the idea. Mechanically, I've never really enjoyed it. It always ends up abstracting the game really far and becoming a completely different game that loses the core character elements that have always been kind of my favorite part. And so we tried very hard not to have that be what happened here.
One thing about mass combat generally in these type of games, even Pathfinder, especially Pathfinder First Edition, is the lack of autonomy for the player. And I hated doing mass combat because like it was there was just so much I couldn't do. Just like you said, it's like a different game. You lose all the character stuff. Plus, it's like I feel like I'm not doing anything really, and I can't really like. There's not much I can do to succeed. If I succeed, it's not really my doing anyway. So I think this is brilliant. You mentioned First Avenger, Captain America: First Avenger. That's the kind of thing that mass combat should be, which is chaos in the background, singular focus in the center. That's what mass combat should be. Dynasty Warriors, the little bit that you get in the like Assassin's Creed games like Odyssey and stuff like that. That's mass combat. Chaos all around you, singular focus. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, hopefully a lot of other people think so too. Like I said, Logan is one of the most talented designers I know. It's why I've always turned to him for like, hey, here's a thing I've never seen anybody do well, in my opinion. Like, come show him how it's done. And I feel like every time I've had that conversation with Logan, the result has been exactly what I could have hoped for, plus a little extra, spice and sugar on top. So yeah, it's really my favorite thing. We might have to like give it a play sometime. Maybe who knows? Maybe I can convince Logan to come and join us for one of these sessions, and we can do some we can do a talking about a game. Well, I can't make any
Yeah.
promises. If Logan's watching this right now, like, sure, Mike. Yeah, like I'm not busy enough in my life.
Logan's busy chucking up the deuces at you.
Yeah, but so this is normally about the point, Matt, where we start talking about your 5 related movies. Anything we want to talk about Skirmish Warfare before we hit cinema inspirations and relations?
I mean, everything you've described feels very much like Dynasty Warriors or, whatever reskin of Dynasty Warriors you want to throw at it. Some of my favorite games to play because you can just turn your brain off and enjoy the popcorn for a while. You have fun collectibles, you have fun fights. The character interactions are fun, and you can make that the focus of these kind of skirmish battles. You can have an opposing battlefield commander who is your character's foil and is taunting you on every turn. And it's just, it changes the feel from what everyone has tried to do for skirmish battlefields to something a lot more energetic and a lot more enthusiastic and a lot more, as Matt said, you have a lot more agency as a player and as a player character. I think that rules.
I also, one of my favorite things in these type of games, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, they did this as well, which was you get on a battlefield and it zooms in on the bad guy, on the opposing commander, and instantly fuck that guy. And I love that, and it feels like that this system really lends to that kind of thing, which I think is
that's the energy for sure.
One hundo. So I already mentioned for my like media inspirations, Captain America: The First Adventure, Shogun. I will say another one that I know is probably on your mind and your list, Matt, which is Braveheart. Say what you will about the lead in Braveheart. Braveheart came out at a very particular time, and I think everybody who's about our age, Matt, has watched it more than once, or had it running in the background of more than one major event. And it really does have some of the most iconic scenes. There's a tactic I didn't mention earlier called Cry Havoc, where everybody just screams and runs forward and enemies have to save or get like trampled and take sonic damage that ramps up based on how many people you have involved in doing it. And that was one where the picture in my head was 100% straight out of Braveheart, right?
Right. That is actually I made a top 5 large scale combat movies. And we've talked about some of these before, and honorable mention 300. I did remove it from the list because it was on my list at one point. But Braveheart is my number 5. The stars, say what you will about him, he was the hottest, sexiest dude in the world in 1995. There, bar none. Say what you will about historical accuracy. Historical accuracy is a modern convention. No one cared about it back then. No one cared about it when the inspiration for Braveheart, which is an epic poem, was completely historically inaccurate. Nobody cared about that stuff unless you are degrading someone who doesn't deserve to be degraded with your historical accuracy. Historical accuracy is fine. Show me a movie. I don't need a history lesson. I'll read it in a book if I need to see that. It would be boring. These movies would be boring if they were historically accurate. Give me a good movie, and that's what Braveheart is. My number 4 is Saving Private Ryan, which I know is going to feel low to a lot of people. I like Saving Private Ryan a lot. I think Spielberg's a great director. I think that the best World War II movie from not 1995, what year that 1998 was Life is Beautiful, and there's big controversy. Which was also nominated for Best Picture, but the big controversy is that Shakespeare in Love beat Saving Private Ryan, and I don't think that's that big of a deal. But Saving Private Ryan's good. I have an issue with with some of the messaging involved, especially considering Steamboat Willie, because they basically the team basically is punished for showing mercy on him, and I think that is bad. That is bad messaging. That is bad moral for the story. I think the movie's great. I think Tom Hanks is great, and I think the supporting cast is all great. There's a lot that I really love. That opening scene on Omaha Beach, that's amazing, large scale combat. But it's a movie that I really like but don't love. All Quiet on the Western Front from 2022, German film. There's a lot of really great combat scenes. The one that I had forgotten when I originally was making this and have added to it is Lawrence of Arabia, which has just so much great large scale combat, and the cinematography in this movie is some of the best you'll ever see. So it's I'm glad that I remembered to put that on here because it's really incredible. And my number one is 3 movies. Well, 2 movies really, but Lord of the Rings. I consider it one movie in any sort of a ranking because it's on my top 5 movies list, top 5 movies of all time list, and it can't take up 3 spots. It has to take up 1. So, but Lord of the Rings, most people who play a commander, when they're giving their speech to their armies, are going to be channeling Aragorn saying, a day may come when the courage of men fail, but that is not this day. And if they say they aren't, they're lying.
Or Theoden, right? Theoden gathering the writers is another great commander.
Exactly.
Moment.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, that's my top 5. Nick,
I'll hit you with 2 strange ones actually. The first one, the big battle scenes in The Mummy. The Brendan Fraser The Mummy. There's a few. Let's see. It's when the Magi are attacking the camp that is around the Hominoptera. Those scenes are brilliant, and they are showing the commanders of both groups. Again, that Shadows of War feeling of oh fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And a hard pivot into anime, Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack. Specifically Char's Counterattack because the entire movie is Char versus Amuro, and everyone else is just blowing up in the background. It is insane and chaotic, and everything explodes. And those 2 guys are all that matter.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Well, that is about the end of our hour here, give or take a little bit. So I want to thank everybody for coming and watching. Thanks, Matt and Nick, for doing a little research and being here to talk about this. If any of y'all are going to Gen Con, this video should be dropping shortly before the convention begins. I will be there, so hopefully I'll get to see you there. Since I will be there, that will mean that we're going to take a little bit of a Gen Con break between recordings. We'll be off for a couple weeks so that I can go and do fun gaming stuff and also some business stuff with Infinite Reimagine. Make sure to pick up your t-shirts, hats, mugs, or other accessories at infinitereimagine.com. And then we'll be back. We've been meaning to do a Final Fantasy episode for a really long time, so I probably shouldn't be making any promises, but like the next episode almost has to be the Final Fantasy episode, or all of us are going to implode. So
next episode, Nick, sounds like a co-host takeover, if you ask me.
I'm gone. Y'all just gonna jump in? I suppose that's fair.
Yeah. Let's have some weird fun.
Well, Mike's away at Gen Con. Nick and Matt have control of the helm and don't want to stop them from doing whatever insanity happens. So, good luck, Nick, Matt, and everybody else on that one. Thank you all for tuning in to the Infinite Reimagine podcast. This has been Mike Sayre, Nick Davis, and Matt Chapmond. We hope to all see y'all next time. And until then, keep thinking of cool ways to reimagine your game. Thanks, everybody.